Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Damien, and I have the great pleasure, indeed privilege, to join you here today at the 25th, much celebrated 25th Bridge Conference. This, in fact, is my second time with the Bridge Conference, and I have to say that I feel so honoured to be part of this event, and indeed this partnership with the ICT Academy here in Tamil Nadu. It's been a great partnership, which I'll refer to a little later during my presentation. But I also want to make the point that, as you no doubt observed, I'm visiting here from my home country, Australia, and it's been so interesting to hear the previous speakers and to get to understand as much as I can the initiatives that are being addressed across this amazing country and indeed economy. So it's a great privilege to be here, and I look forward to sharing some thoughts on this topic of transforming India. Before I proceed, perhaps, I would just like to perhaps position my talk that we've been hearing a lot of conversations at the 40,000 foot level. I'm going to bring the conversation down a little bit more to, if you like, the operational level. But it's something that's very close to my heart because Oracle Academy, as part of Oracle, is really a partner with you here in the ICT Academy. And our concerns are your concerns. Your concerns are our concerns. And we want to work with you with the common objective of the ICT Academy to advance the role of education in each of these major initiatives. So when I was looking at the topic of the transformation journey, I looked at it from the point of view of how do we address impact? How do we actually measure the impact so that the contribution that we are making in the education sector, the contribution that this collaboration of industry and academia, how do we actually know that we are making a contribution? How do we know that what we did before is now not what we're doing now, and why is that a good idea? Now, it's a fairly fundamental management and leadership concept, but I just want to, I guess, bring the conversation back, not be prescriptive, but I hope perhaps be a little provocative. How are we measuring the impact? And when I say we measure the impact, I'm talking about how are we measuring that impact with you? I guess it's a very interesting time for an Australian to be in India. I picked a good week, really. It could have been a lot worse, so I'm very pleased to be here. I really enjoyed spending some time thinking about this whole idea of transforming India and the journey that I have been, in fact, involved with as I've learned about Skill India, Digital India, etc., over the last 12 months since joining Oracle Academy. And I thought about this in terms of the bigger picture, in the terms of the history. And obviously this very important seminal book in your country, 1946, I think it was first published from your first Prime Minister, that really we're talking about a journey that was articulated way back then in that time frame. And now, of course, we're talking about a transformation of India. But the journey started back then, yeah. And I think keeping that sort of history in mind and the challenges and the understanding and perhaps the comprehension about what that has meant since at least the publication of this treatise on India, that where we are today. And of course, it's beautifully articulated in the concepts and in the initiatives of Digital India, Skill India, Startup India, and of course we've heard of Make India and Smart Cities and the remainder. I've just got a few there. But I think when I look at this concept of where are we going and how the transformation is to take place, for me, it comes down to be a question of leadership. And so I wanted to contribute to this leadership forum today with these notions around how are we measuring this success? Because we have practitioners. We have practitioners who are doing wonderful things in their institutions, your institutions. But how do we help them and guide them so that the work that they're doing is in fact having the impact that is going to underpin these national initiatives? So I'm not going to talk specifically about Digital India or Skill India or Make India. I'm talking about the work that we're doing in the institutions that are partners of the ICT Academy. And I guess try and provoke the ideas about if we are on this journey, and the journey that has brought us to the 25th Bridge Conference, and the future that we hear from the chair about where this is going potentially, and from the CEO as well, about where this is going offshore and further across India. How are we showing that the work that we're doing here is actually making an impact? This is a transformation journey, and as I said, and I just have to say this particular slide has decided to transform from the original on the fly, but we could progress with that. These particular initiatives here are part of a journey. It's a journey that I want to describe with you today as, in the context of today, as this collaboration between industry and academia. And in this case, between Oracle Academy as part of industry and the work that we're doing with you in the ICT Academy. A collaboration. But the big question that I want to pose is, do we actually have measures in place? And do we know, or how do we know, if or when those measures are actually helping us succeed? And I think it's a very important question. And in thinking about this, I thought, well, it's often very helpful to reduce potentially fairly complex notions into something simplistic. So, at the risk of oversimplifying, allow me to utilise, as many Australians and I think Indians as well, to utilise the analogy of sport to discuss what do measures of success mean? How do we define success and progress? I've got up here a picture of a professional cycling race, and I'm very pleased to announce that the front rider here is in fact my son, who rides in the Professional World Tour. He lives in Europe, which is the downside of it. And here he is in Spain winning a very important race. And you can see his moment of celebration. Now, in a cycling race which lasts 6 hours and some 200 kilometres, the measure of success you might think is actually fairly straightforward. And I suppose in many contexts it is. Who crossed the line first? That guy, that team won, success. Who crossed the line second? That guy, not success. However, that could be a little bit simplistic because it is a 6-hour journey and it is a team sport. And this particular race is in the context of other races. And in fact, this race is a precursor to the Vuelta of Spain, the Tour of Spain. Who wins this race puts them in a good position to race in the Vuelta, the Tour of Spain. So sometimes when we think of the simplistic measures, underneath those measures there are more complex measures of success. When the team Dimension Data look at that, they say, hey, that was great, but we had 5 other riders in that race. How did they go? And what do we need to do to prepare them for the next event? So the point that I'm looking to draw from this, as I consider this a very proud moment for him and for his dad, was how does this actually develop him as a rider? How does this develop the team? How does it actually develop the sport? So I think measures of success, whilst they may appear to be fairly straightforward, can actually have some complexity associated with them. Let me take you to another analogy. It was quite interesting. I took this piece from the Sydney Morning Herald last week, which obviously preceded the fairly momentous events of the weekend just gone by. And may I make the point that, you know, when you haven't won a test in this country since 2004, I think it is, then last weekend was a very significant measure of success for the Australian cricket team. I also wanted to be on the stage with the Australian cricket team captain, so I thought I'd put that up there today. But again, when we look at the measure of success for a cricket team, we're here to win the series, yeah? But we've won the first test. That's a good measure of success. But is it the success that really counts? And is there perhaps further complexity of success prior to that? Because for us to get to that point, to have that success, a lot of things had to happen over the last, 12 years, 13 years? So this idea of how we measure success is at some point quite simplistic, or it may seem simple, but in other places it's actually gives us an opportunity for some complexity. Cricket Australia will be very happy with what happened last weekend. They'll be even more happy if it repeats itself next weekend. But if it doesn't, is that still a measure of success? I would suggest that it is. So, here we are back with the transformation journey of India. And I think what we need to be looking at here is in the collaboration that we have with industry and the education sector, how are we measuring success? And I've thought about it, and I think about, well, what are the measures of success that I'm trying to achieve as I work with the ICT Academy? And I think, well, we've actually achieved quite a bit. And I'll share some of those experiences with you, both here and what we've done globally. But I have the all-important question that when you achieve a certain goal, you must ask yourself the so what question. We got this far, so what? What impact is that having? Is it the right impact? Is it the impact that we needed to have? Is it the impact that our stakeholders needed to see? Is that impact actually complementing what Digital India is needing, what Skill India is needing? And that's what I like to focus on. But are we doing things? Yes. We're all very busy, and in fact I'm quite certain that being away from work for 2 days is going to make your next 2 days back at work even more busy. We're all busy and we're all doing things. The question is, are we doing the right things? And how are we knowing that they're the right things? I'm sure many of you know Oracle Academy. We are a part of the Oracle Corporation, a very special part, I'm pleased to say. We are the predominant, if you like, the cornerstone of the corporate social responsibility program for Oracle. And our focus is on the education sector. That's what Oracle has decided to do with its CSR program, is how do we promote... I'm not sure where that came from, but that's lovely. I like a bit of musical accompaniment. How do we promote computer science, in particular, within the education sector for the benefit of our communities, our societies? That's the mission of Oracle Academy. And we do that, as I've said, predominantly through our work with the education sector. Here's a picture of Oracle Academy around the globe at the moment. One would argue that there's some significant numbers there. 10,000 members. That's 10,000 institutions. That's about, you could argue, 10,000 universities/colleges. There is some K-12 schools in there, but it's mostly in the higher education sector. We're touching 3.1 million students annually. Now, we get that information actually from our members. Yeah? So 3.1 million students annually are being touched by the offerings that we provide the educators in 112 countries. And that represents, if you like, in grant value, when you consider the software that's given, the training that's given, the assets that's given, it represents something in the order of $3.5 billion annually. It's quite a program. So when we report this, we consider that to be success. I pose the question, 10,000 members, so so what? We have a whole range of offerings, not the least of which is a bunch of curriculum, mostly in the Java and database area, and there's more curriculum coming to support that curriculum in the computer science area. And we've got that in 7 world languages. You know, we have a huge reach, as I said, with the number of students. But last year alone, over 8,000 students participated in competitions around coding and programming. So we're certainly active out there. And the number that I think is, you know, very impressive, really, globally, in the last financial year, we trained, that is in the classroom, albeit some of it virtual classroom, we trained 4,500 educators, teachers, lecturers, professors, what have you, in the offerings that we provide them so they can take that back to their classrooms, to their lecture rooms, to their labs and utilise. Now, they're great statistics, I'm sure you'd all agree. The question I have, as I've mentioned, is the so what? How is this contributing to the aims of our partners? I'll take you through some more. This is, you may have heard of it, the Computer Science for All initiative in the United States. It was initiated by the last administration under President Obama. And they came up with this particular measure that they wanted to reach 230,000 odd students, another 1,100 new universities in the United States, and reach further and train the faculty in the same manner I've just described. Within, 6 or 7 months later, our North America team managed to succeed those numbers considerably with actually reaching out to some 400,000 students. 1,000 institutions and the 643 educators who were trained. Great. Success? Sounds like it's good success. So what? What's the impact? And I've got to be honest with you, apart from the fact that I don't look after the North America territory, I don't know what the impact is. We don't know. And I think we should know. And I think that this is the next step of working with our education partners as a partner. It is to move this forward and start to say, hey, look, we've achieved great things, but what are we actually achieving and how is it contributing to your objectives? Because your objectives in this area, particularly around computer science, are our objectives. We're doing a similar thing in Europe. You may have actually read the press release on this. We recently pledged about 1.4 billion worth of support for computer science over a 3-year period with the aim of reaching that number of educators and a number of institutions. And sitting underneath this, of course, is the Oracle Academy program of offerings, free software, training, a whole range of things. Pretty good. Let's see. What's the impact? What are they trying to achieve? Is someone really analysing that and how are we actually going to manifest it? Not sure what I did there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, and here we are a little closer to home in India, and we're very proud to have achieved in the last financial year over 1,000 member institutions across India. Now that represents about a quarter of the total Japan Asia Pacific membership. So this is very significant. And we've done that principally through these key partners here in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, in Telangana and Jharkhand. And we're currently talking to a number of other states about how we're looking to replicate the model, about how we can support their particularly higher education institutions. We are also talking to the National Institute of Open Schools and the CBSE around how we could be complementing the schools level. But at the moment, that's where we sit. And I'm very pleased to say that that picture of myself here, I'm with my colleague Suji, and Suji is sitting here. Suji, will you stand up and give a wave? Suji's been a long-standing member of Oracle Academy and really is the reason we're actually here today with you in Tamil Nadu. Although she lives in Mumbai, she spends a lot of time in South India. In fact, is from Kerala. So, we've got 1,000 members, and we're doing some great work, or at least that's the feedback I'm getting. But I would like to work with you to understand what is that doing We are training a number of teachers. We are using software. But we're also not using a lot of software. As you probably know, the kit bag of Oracle software is pretty large. So are we talking business intelligence in our degrees and diplomas in computer science? If we are we using business intelligence software in those courses, in those programs? But if we are going to use it, the question has to be, why are we using it? What is the reason we're going to use it? What is the impact we want to achieve? Are we just about graduating computer science graduates? So why are we doing this? Well, here's some information from some statistics we recently received from a research company. And the point of this slide is, whilst it's focusing around coding, the point of this slide is that computer science, as we see it, is no longer, as I'm sure you do see it, is no longer confined to the computer science department. It's no longer confined to the IT industry. It's no longer confined to people like Oracle and Microsoft and IBM and Cisco, etc. Computer science is across every industry. It's found in almost every form of discipline at the moment, whether we're talking manufacturing, government, healthcare, education, retail, manufacturing, etc. So we see the importance of this. And obviously it's this type of profile which underpins the work that our education sector is doing to prepare job-ready, skilled individuals. That's why we're doing it. We're also doing it because we understand that these jobs, which involve, in this case, coding, are actually growing faster than other jobs. And I guess we heard a bit of this in the more macro purview that we heard from our earlier speaker. Nevertheless, these jobs are the jobs that are growing faster. This is a good reason to be involved in this. But how are we actually impacting that 8.8% in coding jobs, or the 7.2% in jobs other than IT that are also involving computer science? And as I said, I don't know. I don't know that there is a prescription for this, and certainly we're not going to cover it in the time frame today. But I think this is the important question that we need to be exploring as we move forward. How are we measuring the success of all of those initiatives, whether it be computer science for all in the United States, whether it be the work we're doing in the European Union, or indeed the work that we're doing here in India and indeed in Tamil Nadu? I believe that we need to be addressing this. What are the measures of success that we need to consider? Is a measure of success simply the number of computer science graduates that we graduate each year? Is that a measure of success? It's certainly a measure, but is it a measure of success that we can say complements our contribution to Skill India? Intuitively, we would say that it does, but how do we actually measure that impact? We're graduating students with digital skills, not just for the IT sector, but for industry in general. What digital skills are they graduating with from your institutions, and why? And how are we measuring whether that particular skill set, that particular curriculum is actually relevant? Are we graduating students who have experience in IT applications that they're actually going to be using in industry? Have we spoken with industry about the prevalence of those applications, or are we just teaching because that's what we've done before? And what is the impact of that? I think there are questions that we need to explore. Even on the first one, how are we attracting students to our particular institution? Particularly if we're looking to promote the computer science qualifications. What do we need to do to impact what is coming out of the school sector into our tertiary sector? Diversity. What are we aiming for, and why? And how do we know if we've achieved it? And why is that important? And how do we actually report on it? Etc., etc. I think that what I've been pondering through this presentation here is there is a clear nexus between what the education sector, what academia is doing to support these key national initiatives. There is a nexus, but I don't think it's clear. And I think as leaders, we need to understand and make that clarity of success, of progress, something that we can manage for our practitioners. And certainly from an Oracle Academy perspective, that is what we're here to do with you. I have much pleasure when I travel around this wonderful region and talk with institutions. And I'm always reminded as I walk generally into a campus, where there are students sitting out on the grass or wandering around, and I remind people in our conversations that what we're doing here is all about those students and the trust that those students have in us as the organisational leaders and the leaders of leaders in helping prepare them for their future and the trust that they have given us. And I think if someone was to say to me, I'm putting my trust in you for this journey, then I need to know how I'm going on that journey and whether this journey is actually going to provide them what they need. Oracle Academy, I'm pleased to say, is here for the long haul. We have our colleagues out at Oracle, of course, who are out there doing wonderful things in R&D and in industry generally, and we communicate with them regularly. But our focus is here to work with you in the education sector. And as I say, we're here for the long haul, and we're very, very pleased to be part of the Academy here in Tamil Nadu and India generally. So I hope that you've found that a little provocative, and I hope over the coming weeks, months and years that we can look to develop some of those measures of success. With that, I thank you very much.
Your knowledge should destroy ignorance. But if knowledge is not destroying ignorance, and if knowledge is protecting ignorance, that is not knowledge.
3% of India is Tamil. You know that? I mean, I did the research. 3% of India is Indian population, and 3% of that 3% is Tamil Brahmin. And so they are like, they consider themselves very, very pure. They think like they're like pure ghee, like they are.
நம்ம எந்த ப்ராபபிலிட்டியில் ஒரு காலேஜை மார்க்கெட் பண்ணுறோன்னா, ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து பயங்கர ஸ்ட்ரிக்டாக வச்சுக்கிட்டு அவங்களுக்கு பிடிக்காத நிறைய விஷயங்கள் பண்ணிவிட்டு, வேறஸ் வெளியில் போகும்போது நான் லேப்டாப் தரேன், நான் வந்து மார்க்கெட்டிங் பண்ணுறேன், காலேஜுக்கு பிராண்டிங் பண்ணுறேன் அப்படின்னா, எங்கேருந்து பிராண்டிங் வரும்? படிக்கிற 2000 பேரும் ஸ்கூலில் வெளியில் போயிட்டு தப்பாக பேசினாங்கன்னா